What's going on, everybody? It is Timeline Junkie. I'm not going to spend tons of time on this video because, as we all know, the situation is unfolding still. But things are pretty weird in the state of Minnesota. And Minnesota, for as unassuming of a state as it is, seems to be in the headlines quite a bit. And has seemed to be the forefront of a lot of national flashpoint issues. Specifically ones that have to do with our social and cultural divide and how those divisions are growing, but also speaks to a lot of what is actually wrong with the United States. And I'm sure plenty of other states have things like this, but Minnesota in particular, I think what has been uncovered recently, we're going to find out is like a legendary corrupt administration under Tim Walz. What the Democrats in Minnesota have figured out how to do is create a self-perpetuating voting motion machine. And they're really setting themselves up to be like a sort of enclave type state. So I think that there's, to me, it's like talking about the CIA, especially when you're talking about domestic stuff, is kind of like it's like a plot hole almost. It's like, I don't know. It's like magic. If you make a movie and someone's got a magic wand and they can just all the shit that doesn't really make sense, they can just wave the wand and it's magic and that's fine. And people do the same thing with the CIA or Israel. They do all that stuff. And I'm sure there's some involvement on some level here because just in a general sense, what I believe has been happening in the Trump administration is there is sort of a rift happening in the intelligence world and the military, to where I think there is a more sort of pro-America, pro-Christian, or maybe pro-Mormon faction that is kind of going against the more old-school pro-Israel faction, because a lot of this stuff started in intelligence. So I'm sure that echoes down somewhere. But I think what we're really exposing is that our political parties are vehicles for foreign countries to disrupt our goings on of our country. And I think Trump recognizes this. And I think Trump recognizes, because he is a very good boy and sits like a good doggy for Israel whenever they ask. But I think he has his own concerns about America as well. I don't think a lot of the stuff he says about America is complete bullshit. But I think that, he's never, tried to deny that he's not the most pro-Israel president ever. But I think that was the deal. I think that the intelligence services or whatever, I think his getting shot in the head was his initiation. And he said, okay, I'll fucking, color between the lines. But just let me be president because I've got all this other stuff I want to do. And I've got all this business stuff I want to do and national security stuff. Clearly has a beef with the Russians, clearly understands at least the enemy that the Chinese are, in the way that a lot of old boomers do. And so I think that Minnesota is a sort of front line in that war against BRICS, essentially. And so, Tim Walz, early on, he was in the military. I've seen enough stuff, that people on his base and soldiers that worked with him, there were people that murmured a lot about him being a Chinese spy, and that it was weird that he went to China so much, and that it was fucking weird that he got married on the anniversary of Mao or whatever. Or no, it was the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. There's just a lot of weird stuff with Tim Walz. He just comes across, like so many of our politicians come across now, as just constructed people, just people that are wearing a mask, and there's something else. But he also is, I think, a very politically adept guy. He doesn't like make a ton of like stupid flubs. He was always pretty decent speech giver and stuff. So as sort of a political agent, I think Tim Walz is pretty smart, but I don't think he was able to really like catch the attention on the national stage, even after the George Floyd stuff, which the George Floyd stuff was an incredibly powerful psyop, especially during COVID. There was just, I think, a lot of, whether you want to say it was pre-planned or not, there was a lot of social experimenting going on during COVID. And this was definitely one of those things. And so I think on some level, there was this national involvement. And then Tim Walz is kind of like, oh, okay, I could like maybe, get in there and be president or whatever. And so this whole time, though, you've got this daycare fraud going on, right? And pretty much every level of the government in Minnesota is involved in this. You've got Tim Walz's administration, his right-hand woman, I think she identifies as. Peggy Flanagan, has been running this Signal chat, which is basically like this insanely complex network. And also, like, I've been in protests, so I've seen these things in real time. And, like a lot of Republicans are acting like this is like next level technology. And it's like, dude, it's literally just like HR ladies that know how to organize shit really, really well. Like, this is a classic trademark of just, baseline college graduate, competent white woman. This is not like, super complex voodoo. However, what is interesting is that there is definitely a lot of, here you can see right here. Pretty sure the FBI just pulled up to my neighbor's house. Stay safe. You too. What are your plans? I may be doing the same. We have less than 24 hours. For what? To get out? Yes. Good luck. Good luck. You must have done some really shady shit if you're this scared. And having a Signal chat and organizing protesters isn't illegal. Having a Signal chat, even to disrupt federal investigations while being illegal, I could see him getting away with it just because, like, nothing ever happens. However, what they've done is track license plates, and they've created this sort of parallel private, security apparatus to track who's going in and out of the zone, and it's obvious that they're using the, I don't know if you've ever seen the license plate identifiers, or maybe your state or country doesn't have them, but they're these like weird, just flat panels. Looks like almost like a solar panel just attached to a pole, and it's like diagonal, kind of pointing up. But those are like license plate identifiers, so they can just scan your fucking plate and know that you were at least there. It's almost like a checkpoint without being a checkpoint. And they clearly have access to these databases. This Signal chat thing over here, and these people clearly have been given access to police intelligence equipment and police, surveillance equipment and stuff like that, and databases as well. They also, the voter database is a big thing too. Now, I'm not going to get into the election super hard, but it is a factor because we all know it was a huge, Trump just has a huge hard-on for the 2020 election. And there must be something that if he can officially state that it was stolen, there must be some big thing he can undo. Or it might just be a fucking ego thing with him. I don't know. But regardless, proving the election was stolen is a big deal to him. Now, if you believe that line of thinking, that brings the Maduros into this. Because Dominion Voting, the company that makes a lot of this voting equipment that a lot of places have used, specifically Los Angeles, Venezuela, all of their elections. I believe the first iteration of it was the Mexican election, where it's in Narcos Mexico season 2, where like they completely fudged the numbers. Regardless, though, I don't really particularly think the guys that started Dominion voting are like evil, awful socialists. I think they just like grew up in a socialist country and they're just very pro democracy. But they've been aggressive with suing, Rudy Giuliani and these other people for claiming that they had to do with the election being stolen in 2020. However, if there is any truth to those claims, if someone on the inside has that evidence, it would be really, really useful if you could just sort of snatch up Maduro and pin him, with bullshit drug charges, but enough that you could throw away the key and it's a real thing. Somebody roughed up his wife, obviously. And then you can have him testify in open court and start singing like a birdie that he was doing it at the behest of other people or whatever. I don't know. It's flimsy. It's definitely flimsy. However, it's weird that all of this shit, specifically this fucking guy, comes out right around this whole thing. Also, I did see this sent by a follower. I saw your post about Maduro capture. I trust you won't involve me or my name in any further investigation. Oh, wait, no. Can't do that. He was in Minnesota within the past few months getting a flight over Camp Ripley through the National Guard. I do not know why. It may have been a show of force or rehearsal. Regardless, he was here. My blank dropped this on me because when he was at blank, he walked in on a mission briefing describing how they would fly Maduro and his wife around Camp Ripley. I don't know if you can try and obtain a FOIA about this, but all I know is I can't talk about it and it needs to be looked into. Camp Ripley right here. It's a National Guard base. So here's another thing I really didn't even think about until just now. I know like the governor is sort of in control of the National Guard in their state, but like how much diplomatic power does the National Guard have? Like would some general in the National Guard be able to like invite a world leader to his base? How the fuck does that work? Also, like, this could be entirely fucking bullshit. Like, there's no proof that, somebody actually was flying Maduro and his wife around. However, it could be interesting when you consider that China has bought a decent amount of farmland. I think they own, China owns 3% of all the agricultural land in the United States. It doesn't seem like a lot. But when you consider that that is our land, it's actually a fucking whole lot. Sorry, I'm doing the water bottle, drinking a lot. I'm very thirsty. But with China and the farmland, okay, Minnesota has a law that states that foreign countries, a certain set of foreign countries, basically cannot buy farmland in Minnesota. Now, a lot of foreign countries do own farmland in Minnesota. However, they're pretty much all our allies. It's like the UK, Canada, Germany. And so the other thing, though, is that it doesn't permit anybody or doesn't prohibit foreign countries from going into mining or logging. So everybody's been looking into farmland and agricultural stuff because a lot of this farmland happens to be right outside of military bases. And just for clarification, I have no evidence that China owns any farmland around here, specifically because China's not really allowed to own farmland in Minnesota. However, I can easily see a world where there are shadow investment firms and hedge funds or private equity things that are all Chinese investors and Chinese money, but it's got a nice European face on it or something else. That can definitely happen. Again, no proof. I'm just like sort of spitballing here with the outside fringes stuff. So you've got Ilhan Omar. Her brother has a political consulting firm that just like goes from $0 to fucking 25 million in a matter of years. She's become a very visible politician. Also just having to I feel like Democrats in general are just trying to get a glow up. Like they're just trying to get better looking people. They're just like, we need to be hot. Like we need to be the hot party. Trump is killing us with, all these bimbos. And so, they want to get Ilhan Omar in there. This dude looks like a politician from Batman, like the CW Batman show. Who's this guy? This fucking Brawlic Chad dude is their police chief? Like, what's going on there? And then you've got this frumpy little douche. So anyway, in my thinking, Tim Walz's job was to keep this whole gravy train going. So, on the high estimate, I've heard $100 billion worth of fraud coming out, which is fucking insane. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna go with just $18 billion though. Okay, I'll give Minnesota the benefit of the doubt. Now, as soon as the daycare fraud thing gets exposed, the ICE stuff ramps up, right? So the daycare fraud gets exposed. Everyone's like, this is fucking bullshit. The fraud's so bad. ICE is like, bet, we're on it, right? Signal chat starts popping up. Everybody gets in there. The protests happen. And then we get this. We get her first, and then this dude second. Pretty much like people that look like they were made in a character generator for the archetype of who right-wing dudes that are most likely to join ICE fucking hate. Like, that's the craziest thing to me. And also how, like, all of these, like, liberal sort of martyr hero people all have some, like, fucked up backstory. And like, this dude is apparently like a perfect angel, and he always just did nice, great things. And then she, I don't know what the truth to the claims were about the cigarettes being put out on the kids and all that other stuff. I don't really know about that, but it is very interesting. The two people that get killed, their names are Pretty and Good. And that goes back into the BLM psyop of like, I can't breathe, and it's during COVID, and the mask, and it's all very weird. So Tim Walz is supposed to keep this whole thing going, right? Because they get the daycare fraud stuff done through the federal government. Federal funds go in, they make all these fake businesses, the money goes out. A lot of it probably goes to Somalia or Somaliland, and a lot of it gets pretty much doled out to this. I think a lot of this money is to pay for this and to be able to kind of like mobilize this mass army and to keep I did it again. God damn it. And it's to keep people from oh my god, what the fuck is happening? Sorry. I think it's just to like keep and pay for sustained protesting. It's not just about like printing some signs and stuff like that. You really have to have people's presence 24/7 for days and days and days and days. Like the BLM shit lasted for so long. But if you're trying to create a distraction, especially a national distraction, because keep in mind, Tim Walz at this time is getting drug up in front of Congress, and Nick Shirley's in front of Congress. And like, this is on C-SPAN the day she gets fucking shot, right? And so like, they already have a lot of evidence of these people like provoking people and being like, yo, you must fuck with these ICE officers. You must, stop them and protect your neighbors and blah, 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 blah. But really what they're talking about is you must protect our investment. Even when you look at it, like, this is the flag of Somalia. Like, this is what Minnesota's flag used to be. This is what it is now. Tim Walz changed it. Isn't that a little weird? Doesn't that seem just a fucking little weird? I'm not even going to make a big thing about it. But to me, this is a signal to the Somali population of like, yo, we got you. Just keep bringing your people here. And everybody walks away happy. And so the other thing is too, and I haven't looked into this too much, but Somaliland, Israel's the first country to ever recognize them as a country. And just because of Israel Middle East war reasons, Somalia is very well positioned, and it's right across from Yemen, who's a big time enemy of the United States and Israel. And so, rumor has it, Somaliland is where all of the people in Gaza are going to be relocated to. So that's interesting. However, I don't know what the connection is. I don't have much more than a rumor on that. So I don't know if it's like a lot of the money's going to pay off warlords for Israel or some shit. I don't know. Again, that one, little flimsy, but is weird. But to me, more so, it makes sense that, Somalia, after its like fourth conflict and bombing by the United States and allies and all the civil war shit that's happened, is just a fucking mess. And basically all the big powers are like, well, shit, we can do something with it. If all you guys are going to do is have fucking pirates and not have a government, we can just come in and, we could use that land for some stuff. And then you have all this diaspora from Somalia because of what a fucking shithole it is. And then you can, you got to put them somewhere. So states like the one I live in, which my city has the second highest Somali population in the United States, behind Minneapolis. However, it's a much bigger city than Minneapolis, and the Somalis that we have here are they've been here for almost 20 years now. They were like the people that came after the Black Hawk Down stuff. So a lot of their kids are like pretty assimilated and Americanized. It's a lot different than how it seems in there's no like fucking prayer call and shit like that. And there's also a ton of other populations of people here. We have a lot of like Indian people. We have a good amount of Chinese and Korean people. Still got a lot of white people, got a lot of black people, got a lot of Mexican people. It's all around a pretty diverse city, but Minneapolis is just kind of smaller. It's just like a smaller city, and the Somali population really counts for a lot of that population influx they've had. And so it's because, again, this is like a Biden thing. The Bidens fought for the open borders because I think that was their sort of price to pay to whoever the sort of new world order intelligence agency, the people that tell the president what to do, or the people that choose who gets to be the president, they've got to make some sort of compromise. They've got to do some sort of thing that it's like, hey, no matter what fucking political pressure you're under, no matter what people are bitching about, you got to keep this going. And the border is one of those things, because whether it's Soros, Democrats, the fucking military industrial complex, whoever it is, it's just like, yo, man, the Democrats need these foreigners to vote. The business needs illegal immigrants to get cheap labor. And the Republicans need H-1Bs to fund the tech oligarchy, or to keep it kind of running. And so, I think Biden was instructed to keep the border open. And what we see in the Tim Walz administration is how that really manifests, like an actual operation. And it seems to be like tradecraft, an actual like, the signal chat thing is pretty fucking sophisticated, man. Like they were tracking people as soon as they get in the city, and they can mobilize people so quickly. And it's honestly pretty encouraging, considering a lot of these people are citizens, even though a lot of them are, political operatives and whatnot. But, the media thing too, that's another big part that got revealed in the signal chat, is that a lot of the people in this chat are also journalists. Now, I'm sure, they could probably do the cop out of just saying like, hey, I was just there. I wanted to be in the signal chat so I could be where the action was, because, I'm a reporter, and that's whatever. I get that. But all in all, when you look at how they portrayed the situation, and the other part is like, ICE is a fucking shit show for the most part. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that trying to detain illegals and get them out is a very difficult job. All law enforcement jobs are pretty fucking difficult. I wouldn't want to be in ICE. However, these dudes apparently did. And so, they're supposed to do this job, and I bet it is annoying having a bunch of fucking screaming white ladies with whistles just trying to make the situation as tense and crazy as possible. But, like, with the dude that was killed the other day, I don't know how the fuck you're, like, the dude's disarmed already, and there's, like, fucking 8 of you, and for some reason you've got, like, pistols out pointed right at this dude's fucking head, and then they're shooting him on the ground. And also, it's very funny that this dude never got doxxed. Like, we don't know who the guy was that shot him. We still don't know if it was one or multiple officers that shot him. And we have, like, 9 fucking camera angles of that one. But I guess it's just a blanket thing of, like, well, these guys will never get prosecuted because they were on a federal operation. And it's like, I think people that are disrupting ICE are kind of stupid and shouldn't do that. I don't think it's A, very effective, and B, it's like, what the fuck are you stopping them for? Like, what is this? And then they go on and on about, like, well, they were American citizens. It's like, well, what the fuck does that matter if we don't have borders? Like, what is a citizen? What does being a citizen even mean then? If, like, people can just come here and get the same shit as us, what does it matter if we're citizens? Like, we're all just people, right? We're all just economic units, right? And so it's just like, that's what I do. Like, the cognitive dissonance is crazy. And that's how I know that this is basically a front for a massive criminal cartel. And they use the Democrat Party, sophisticated medical fraud schemes using federal funds. And then they use organized protests and counter protests to basically get attention off of this. But the other part of it that's interesting is that, like, all of this fraud has been investigated for, like, quite some time. And this has been a problem that's been going on in Minnesota for, like, over 15 years. And the other thing is people, I can't even, like, blame Tim Walz for that. It's just that that's how a lot of states that aren't, like, big, states that, like, no one's really thinking about at the moment, that's how they all become. Like, most state governments are insanely corrupt, at least in American standards. And so, I'm sure there's fraud of some kind in every state. Like in Ohio, people tried to drum up some shit about, like, the fraud and whatnot, and I'm sure there's some, but our government is just a little more down the middle, so I think there's just enough people willing to investigate that stuff if it was politically viable, and I just don't think it's that bad. But who knows? And so, but all I know is, like, ICE came to my city twice, and my city's a liberal ass city, and, like, we definitely protest and stuff, but it didn't really happen this time. And it's because the people weren't protesting. Like, as soon as it got cold, everybody went the fuck inside. They were like, all right, too icy for ICE. And so they didn't have an $18 billion fraud operation they were protecting, though. And so that's why everything is, like, all of the language, everything is getting fucking pumped up. Everything is getting so intensified by them. And then ICE is, like, kicking back and doing that as well. Quick side note, I also think it's, like, entirely plausible Trump activated the weather machines to make sure that during this big protest weekend, which genuinely a crazy fucking storm, like, that looks CGI. I guess this is, like, a real image of the storm. Like, that's just fucking crazy. That's just the entire goddamn United States. But, just as a fun aside, I do think it'd be interesting if Trump was just like, yeah, and also turn on the weather machines. Make it really cold. It's going to be ice. Lots of ice for ICE to do their job. And that would be crazy. And it's entirely plausible in this weird fucking timeline that we live in. But you've got these protests and like these ICE dudes, just signed up fucking 4 weeks ago. They've got like, 40 hours of training or something like that, if that. And the fact is, most of the people at the protests have been peaceful. These weren't like the BLM riots. They haven't really been riots, I don't think, or at least I haven't seen it like that. And the real fact of all of this is that going back to these people and just how it's like people are now becoming like archetypes. Everything is like an archetype now. Everybody has like a costume and a thing. Because my boy Kyle over here, he's next to get set up. He goes on Piers Morgan today. Well, by the time you'll be seeing it, it'll be today. But I've been following him for a couple weeks, looking at his account, and he's your typical like protester person. They, insanely obsessed with himself, hero, martyr complex. Badass complex, blah, blah, blah. But also could definitely be a Fed of some kind. And, this is like the group that the right wing has wanted us to think is like basically as bad as Al Qaeda. And like they're just not. Like, I don't know how else to say that. And I've met like a lot of Antifa people, and not all of them were like super duper hardcore with it, but some were. And it's just not like they are not sitting around thinking like, yeah, we need to like fucking blow up bombs in public places. Like they're not doing that. But they want that because ultimately this little scheme, which I'm sure just started as like a little Minnesota scheme, has ballooned into this world global flashpoint thing because it just grew and it grew and it grew. And there's so many people getting paid, so many people are in on it, but it plays perfectly into the hand of what the Trump administration was, which is like phase 3 of, sort of Great Reset, NWO, whatever you want to call it, plan. Phase 1 is the war on terror and to create all of this destabilization in the third world. And then phase 2 was like, phase 2 is like COVID and sort of seeing the limits of how you can track people, how you can control their jobs, what people will put up with and stuff. Phase 3 is the mass migration and like the open borders, which we see clearly in Europe and in America. It was a concentrated, concerted effort to do this. And then phase 4 now is when they got to flip and everybody goes hardcore right wing, so they can say like, well, fuck, man, these immigrants, they're just so bad, dude. These immigrants are just terrible. We have to do a fucking digital ID. I mean, I just don't know how else we're going to do it. We probably just got to, I don't know, go to like cashless currency or something. For real. Yeah, I think we'll probably just do that for real. You guys would be cool with that, right? As long as the immigrants are getting thrown in jail. And it's so fucked up because like the immigrants and shit and the population differential is a real problem. It is like a real issue and it could really fuck a country up and it needs to be fixed. But they're not going to do it that way. They're not just going to do it. There would be mass deportations if they actually wanted to do that. But Trump is a business guy first. They want to keep a lot of the labor in the United States. I have a feeling illegal labor is like just used all over the world. And so, they're more than happy to do this. And then the state of Minnesota, as long as they have a fresh supply of Somalians coming in, then they can always lobby for funding to give, illegals health care or whatever kind of federal funds, because it's not fucking their money. It's your money. And so that brings me to my last point of all of this. You've got these people, which are the victims of this whole fucking crazy thing. These people are also the victims of it. And it's just wild. Like, liberals love to be like, well, they're just standing in the cold because they're fucking in solidarity with their loved ones. But it's also like, yeah, they're also protecting a huge fraud operation. Like, so many of these people are getting paid. It's obvious. Like, it's fucking obvious. All of this shit is connected. And so then you've got this, dude. the weirdest motherfucking shit of all time. This guy, Vance Boelter, who I could do a whole other video just on him and his weird fucking life and weird fucking past. But this dude to me is the cover story. This dude assassinated this woman who, all in all, she obviously, picture with a golden retriever, nice, normie looking blonde woman. Everybody liked her. She served her state, pretty well with dignity. She was a lib, but she gave Republicans, oh my God, I fucking did it again. I hate this so much. She voted against the bill to increase or continue the immigration funding. That would basically factor that in to the state budget. She voted against it. Everybody was pretty disappointed in her for it. And she is one of the people that Vance Boelter assassinated. Or at least they tell us Vance Boelter assassinated, because he wore this weird stuntman mask like he's in the movie Drive, which was fucking weird. He had a bunch of guns and shit in his car. He had a hit list. Let me see if I can see it over here. He had like a hit list thing. Apparently it was 70 people, 40 people on it, and they were all, like this woman. Peggy Flanagan was on it. Bunch of people very close to Tim Walz were on this hit list. And they very quickly tried to memory hole him as like this like crazy Trump supporter guy and super anti-abortion activist, which I also thought was interesting. But he definitely pleaded not guilty, said that Tim Walz, he wrote a letter to the FBI apparently, claiming that Tim Walz put him up to it. And Tim Walz is going to pay him money, I think, to do it. So the other thing is like the cops were outside of the fucking house of one of the victims and like listening to him killing them. And then he like got away after that. Like while the cops are like outside of the house, he like snuck out the fucking back door or something. So eventually they caught the dude. I don't know if his trial has happened yet, but that whole thing, it's like, oh really? What a coinkydink. How weird that the state with the governor, who also like all of this shit, the daycare fraud thing, that's how he bought into the Harris campaign. That's how he bought in. He was about to get a quick little jump to vice president and be in vice president and be clean of this whole scandal because he knew it was going down anyway. Vice presidency was his fucking out. And he bought in with like, hey man, I got a big network. I got a lot of cool shit going on where I'm from, and we got a lot of money rolling in that is funneling back to the Democrat Party. But it's like, really? The state with the governor who's got the fucking strange China connection with a massively huge, Somali population and a Somali senator and, all of this fraud and all of this, like, very high level activism, like high level leftist activism, and with the high visibility social cultural flashpoint psyops and the strange, clearly motivated by something more than just malice, assassination of state politicians, and then the weird national flashpoint. Like, really? None of this is fucking connected, huh? This is what I hate about normies, man. They just see this. That's it. Oh my God, ICE killed these pretty good people. ICE killed them. That's terrible. We need to protest against ICE. We need to protest because they're bad. They're like Nazis. They're like the Gestapo. Like, by the way, dude, like, I don't love the feds, bro. Like, I really don't. So, like, the ICE guys, it's just like, I don't know, man. They could be carrying themselves in a much different fashion, and this is clearly intentional to be sort of a shock terror operation, and it's very obvious. But it again, the psyop sort of nature of it all, of like, oh my god, it's in the winter, it's icy, and they're called ice. They're ice cold, and they kill pretty and good people. It's just, I don't know. It's fucking weird, dude. It's weird. The whole thing's fucking weird. I would love if more information on the Somaliland thing, and if there is some connection with that. But as a conspiracy theorist, I'm getting kind of bored with the whole thing of Israel's behind every single thing. To me, this seems much more like it could be China meddling, and China, you know, it's in their interest to make our society divided, and turning against itself and trying to turn it on the capitalist class and the merchant class, and create that sort of divide that communism or socialism relies on. And what we could be seeing is essentially China is fighting a proxy war with the U.S. through Minnesota. Like, this is the front line of China's war with us. And, I don't know where all the Somalians come in, because also I know Minnesota's taken a lot of Somalians for a long time. A lot of the Somalis in Minnesota have been there and are just like actual citizens. And so, I don't know, man. It's weird. The whole fucking state is weird, dude. And then also you just look into the history of Minnesota with like Antifa and how those are connected, and it's wild. So I just wanted to do this. I just happened to make this tonight. And I've just been thinking a lot about it because I just can't help myself of just like, what the fuck is going on in Minnesota? Like, it doesn't feel like a real place. It feels like a scripted, constructed TV drama. And the question is it to distract us from stuff? It could be. It could be to distract us from